Have you ever wondered what a civilization looks like when it's at its absolute peak, when it's so stable, so innovative, that for almost 200 years, it basically defines perfection? Well, we're going to journey back about 4,000 years to ancient Egypt to explore exactly that, a true golden age known as the 12th Dynasty. This wasn't just about power, it was a high point for human achievement, and we're about to see exactly why.
But that gets you thinking, right? What really makes a golden age? Is it all about massive armies and conquering new lands? Or maybe it's the breathtaking art and culture? Or is it just having a steady hand and strong leadership? The truth is, it's a rare, incredible mix of all three, creating this one moment in time when a civilization just hits its stride.
And for ancient Egypt, the 12th dynasty is pretty much the perfect answer. This one image, this snapshot of the era, it holds all the clues to understanding its greatness. It tells a story of incredible stability, monumental building projects, and a cultural brilliance that's just off the charts. So let's break it all down.
Okay, first things first, let's set the stage. This dynasty didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was the absolute peak of a much larger era in Egyptian history, an era we call the Middle Kingdom.
So what exactly was the Middle Kingdom? Well, you can think of it as Egypt's great comeback story. After a time when the country was divided, it was finally unified, and that sparked this incredible renaissance in art, in literature, and in massive construction projects. This was the fertile ground from which the 12th dynasty was going to grow.
So how did this golden age even begin? Every great era has a catalyst, that one spark that gets everything going. And for the 12th dynasty, that spark was a really powerful pharaoh named Amenemhat I.
Just look at this moment in time. Right around 1991 BCE, the old 11th dynasty fades away, and Amenemhat I steps onto the scene. Now, this wasn't just a simple handover of power. No way. He founded something completely new, a dynasty that would go on to rule Egypt for nearly 200 years and define an entire age.
And one of his very first moves? It was a stroke of absolute genius. He moved the capital city from Thebes, the traditional southern power base, to a brand new city he founded up north called Ij-Tatawi. By planting his capital right at the junction of Upper and Lower Egypt, he could control everything, trade, resources, politics, like never before. It was a total masterstroke.
All right, so with the new capital and a firm grip on the throne, the dynasty started to show off its strength in ways that would last for thousands of years, building an empire not just with armies, but with stone and strategy.
I mean, their ambition was literally set in stone. Now, while these pyramids aren't as huge as the famous ones at Giza, the complexes they built at places like Lishta Dashur were still incredible feats of engineering. They were these undeniable statements of the pharaoh's divine power and the massive resources they now had at their command.
But their power wasn't just for show. The dynasty was aggressive, pushing Egypt's borders south into Nubia. And you had these warrior kings like Senusret III, who didn't just conquer new territory, they made sure to secure it. He built a whole chain of massive forts along the new frontier, and even reformed the government to make sure Egypt's grip on the region would last. And this whole idea, this whole attitude, is captured perfectly by this one simple line from our source: names carved in stone, power restored. It tells you everything you need to know. Every single thing they did was about cementing their legacy and bringing Egypt back to its absolute height of power.
But look, military and political might, that's only half the story of a golden age. The 12th dynasty also happened to be a time of an incredible, unbelievable explosion of creativity in both art and literature.
In this cultural boom, it really happened on two fronts. On one hand, you have these timeless literary masterpieces like the story of Sinuhe, which was so popular it became required reading for Egyptian students for centuries. And at the same time, their art started telling new kinds of stories, with sculptures that really captured a deep, realistic sense of human character.
And that right there is the key word: realism. The art of this time started to move away from the really stiff, idealized figures of the past. All of a sudden, you start to see faces that look natural, classical, some of them even look a little world-weary. And this wasn't just some artistic choice, it was a reflection of a really confident, sophisticated culture that wasn't afraid to show humanity exactly as it was.
Of course, like all good things and all golden ages, the peak of the 12th dynasty eventually had to come to an end. But it left behind a powerful legacy that would echo all the way through the rest of Egyptian history.
So the dynasty finally wraps up around 1802 BCE, and it ends with the amazing reign of Sobek-Nefru, who was one of the very first women to rule Egypt as a full pharaoh. How cool is that? Her reign marked the end of this incredible era. For nearly 200 years, the 12th dynasty had set the ultimate standard for what royal power, stability, and cultural brilliance could look like. It was a legacy that future pharaohs would try to copy forever.
So, the 12th dynasty really shows us what a civilization can achieve when it's firing on all cylinders, when it's at its absolute best. But it also leaves us with this one big nagging question. After you've reached the summit, after you've hit that peak of power and culture, what happens next? What happens when a golden age finally, inevitably,